Hi guys, this is Jet with Remax Central, here to answer your real estate related questions. Today we're going to talk about renting versus owning, and I'm going to show you how to run the numbers to see what makes sense for you. Before we get started, I just want to say that none of us have a crystal ball to predict what real estate prices are going to do over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So in order for us to get an apples to apples comparison, we're going to assume that the property neither appreciates nor depreciates in value. Of course, it makes sense that if you think the property is going to appreciate in value, you probably want to buy. And if you feel that it's going to depreciate, you probably want to rent. So that being said, let's get started. We're going to look at a 5-year timeline, and we're going to look at a house that's worth about $400,000 to run our numbers. So first for renting. Renting a $400,000 house, let's assume that you're paying $1,800 a month in rent. Over 5 years, which is 60 months, you're going to pay $108,000. So that's pretty straightforward. When it comes to buying, we have to think about 3 different major expenses that we occur over time. The first one is going to be, of course, our mortgage. So on a $400,000 house, let's say we put down 10%, so $40,000. That means our principal, which is the total loan that we have to pay back, is $360,000. At 3.5% interest rate, which is kind of in the ballpark of what you pay these days, your payment is going to be about $1,790 a month, so $1,790 a month. It's pretty easy to figure this out if you use an online mortgage calculator. Personally, I use Scotiabank. It's pretty straightforward to use. You can play around with different numbers and it'll spit you out what your payments are. I'm using a 25-year total amortization. That's how long it takes to pay back the loan. So the one thing to think about is when you're actually paying back the loan, a percentage of it goes towards your principal and a percentage goes towards interest. The real cost here is just your interest cost, because your principal is basically your equity pay down in the property. So our real cost over 5 years is our interest that we've spent. And in this example, using these numbers, it works out to about $58,000 over the 5 years. So that's our first expense. The second expense is going to be property taxes. So on a house like this, we can say we'd approximately spend about $3,000 a year on property taxes. So over 5 years, we're looking at about $15,000. The last thing that we got to think about is our maintenance costs. So a good rule of thumb is you budget about 1% of the purchase price of the house per year for maintenance. So in this example, if our price is $400,000, we'd budget about $4,000 a year over 5 years, which is $20,000 for maintenance. So comparing these two, we can see that renting would cost us about $108,000 and purchasing would cost us about $93,000. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind, guys. I did not take into account, for example, insurance, which is, there's going to be a little bit of a difference in when you're a tenant, you're only going to pay tenant insurance, which is content insurance, as opposed to when you're a owner, you're going to pay insurance on the property as a whole. But these numbers can be fairly close depending on your individual circumstance. So I've left them out the calculation, but they can easily be put back in. The other thing that I didn't talk about, is your opportunity cost. So when you put that down payment as an owner, the $40,000, as a tenant, you obviously wouldn't have to put that down. And if you don't have to put that down, now that capital is available for you to invest in other things like the stock market or perhaps a rental property of your own. The important thing here, guys, is to not worry about the numbers themselves, but to kind of look at how I used the different metrics to determine, is it better to rent or buy? Now, hopefully you guys found this useful. If you would like my help to run the numbers for you, I would be happy to do so. And if you would actually like a copy of the spreadsheet that I used I kind of developed it myself to help run the numbers, which you can easily populate for your specific scenario, just drop me a comment or feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to send that over to you. Thanks a lot, guys, for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.